everyone, welcome to my channel Financial Wisdom with AnaG. I'm AnaG, and today we have our first guest, Dr. Lockhart, to talk to us about the correlation between personal finance and stress. Dr. Lockhart got her doctorate degree of clinical psychology from the California School of Professional Psychology. She got her Master's of Education in Counseling Psychology from Howard University. Peach you. I knew you were going to do that. Her Bachelor's in Psychology from Seton Hall. She works as a mental health clinician in the juvenile system, and she also has a private practice, Dr. Lockhart's Therapeutic Wellness Center, Healing Through Psychotherapy. So welcome, Dr. Lockhart.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. My first guest. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I enjoy working with adolescents as my passion, but I work with little ones, not quite as much anymore. I work with adults, I work with the seniors, and I'm finding, like, with this coronavirus going on, I'm being pulled in a lot of different ways that I didn't think I would be pulled before. I'm also a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, our Vice President, Kamala Harris, and our Susie Kamala. And I'm just really excited to be here and let you guys know what I know when I think about financial stress, because it's real.
Yeah, and with COVID, are you getting a lot more work now? I can imagine with the different things.
It's different work, so you would think that it would just be affecting the adults, but you see it with the teens and the children, because more and more parents being home and out of work, the kids are feeling the effects of it as well. But there's a lot of financial stress going on with people not working, working from home, trying to figure that out, and then, just trying to see where their next paycheck is going to come in. So there's been a lot of stress and anxiety related to that.
I'm grateful that everything looks like it's getting better, so I'm glad for that. But even then, before COVID even started, personal finance is something that a lot of people don't have a good grasp on, and it can cause so much stress in all aspects of your life. And one of the things that's very important that I think people should know, and I would like for you to elaborate, is what is the difference between good stress and bad stress?
So there is a big difference between good stress and bad stress. Most of us think it's all the same stress, and it's not. In our field, the mental health field, we call good stress is called eustress, and spelled E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S, eustress. And that's the stress that we all kind of want. It's the stress that helps us push forward in crisis times. It's the stress that helps us achieve goals that we're trying to achieve, starting your own business, starting my own private practice. If a child has a test, it's that kind of stress that, like, all right, I need to nail this, and it's going to help them hopefully study more. So it's the stress that is good for you and doesn't take you out. The bad stress is distress, which we're all familiar with that term, and that's the stress that we don't want, but inevitably everyone's going to experience it in some form or fashion, and that's the stress that could lead to psychological and physical, emotional, negative benefits.
Okay. All right. So a good example for me about the good stress, the eustress, which I just thought was Y-O-U, like you stress, but no, I'm glad you pointed that out. When I have to take the physical fitness test, that adrenaline, that stress that happens right before you take that, and so many people I know in the military have it. It's like you don't think you're gonna do good, and then that adrenaline starts going, and you just most people end up doing a lot better than what they thought they were. But you had mentioned that there's the physical, the emotional, and other types of just results of stress. So let's start with the physical. What are some of those?
The physical stress are many things that we've all experienced, again, different times. So physically, you can develop headaches, you can develop tummy aches, you can develop ulcers, the extra end of the tummy ache, right? You can get weight gain, which none of us like. I wish mine would be like losing the weight. I never get that stress, right? So all of those things can happen. When you don't deal with that stress, it can lead to even more serious effects like heart attacks, heart disease. On the psychological side, it can lend to anxiety, it can lend to depression. You can get hair loss, that's a physical, and for women especially, that would be an emotional effect. There's so many things that can happen when you don't deal with it, denial, anxiety, guilt, all those things that manifest themselves either physically, well, not either, but physically and emotionally.
Okay. So just being able to recognize whether it's good stress that's going to help you to figure stuff out and excel, or the bad stress, the one that's causing some type of physical attributes that are not healthy for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's great to know. How about on the emotional and mental side? What are some of the things, how it manifests itself?
It can manifest itself really in ways that can become devastating. So I guess it's actually a combination of physical and mental health, but marriages can end, relationships can break up. We want to toss our kids
out the window,
out the door. All those things can happen, but the serious parts of it can be the depression, anxiety, isolation. You start, because you're not able to go out with your friends, you start just staying in, and then that makes the depression become greater. You're not really putting forth your full efforts into things that you're going to do. And we often think that finances are tangible, that it's like, okay, I don't have this money for this day, but I can manage this way. And it really doesn't. It could be the smallest amount for each individual that can set them on a stressful level that you really don't realize. For some, and it doesn't have to be like thousands of dollars in debt. It's how many people are living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. I've been there, may still be there. It depends on what month it is. But all of those things weigh into your stress, and then that weighs into your health.
Yes. And you had mentioned also how it affects relationships. And little things like you're living paycheck to paycheck and now you can't have date night. And how does that, not doing that, you not having time with your partner alone over time, how does that affect your relationship? And the number one cause of divorce is finances. So personal finance takes a huge toll if you don't have it under control in so many areas of your life. And now with, let's move over to social media has just blown up nowadays. Yeah. And how people are on there and seeing other people on there. Do you think social media plays into financial stress?
I do, but let me just tease Miss AnaG, because when she mentioned date night, our illustrious cameraman is her husband. And Dr. Lockhart, the excellent psychologist, noticed that her eyes averted when she said date night. And then she went back. And he didn't move, so I'm just saying. These things are important.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, social media. We used to have Keeping Up with the Joneses with our next door neighbors. Oh, now it's like, who's on social media? Are they faking the funk? What's real? What's not real? And that plays into the finances. Not only that, and this is where they get me all the time, all those freaking advertisements. Oh my God. And they're all everything that I want, I think I need, and
deserve. You think that you deserve?
I deserve it.
Yes, I've been working hard.
And they come on right in the middle of something, and you're like, all of a sudden, your attention span is like, oh, let me find out how to order this. It's pressure, and it's pressure you don't really realize. They make you think social media, well, I won't say that, but the advertisers on the devil. No, they make you think like you want these things, and it's like, it's not even subliminal anymore. It's just in your face. And then you may see, your 500 friends or your 5 friends, whatever your number is on your social media, that they just got it, or they're supposed to be blinging out and this and that. And it could be real, it could not be real, but the challenge of thinking, well, can I have that too? Are my finances to that level? That plays into it. You see it on the TV, you see it on, all the different medias. I don't know if you guys know, but when you watch TV, those of us who still watch TV, when the commercials come on, the commercial, what are they called? The waves? I don't know the proper term, but the commercials, listen the next time you watch it, the commercials are at a higher pitch than the TV shows. And that's because they're investing all their money into it and they want your attention. So next time you're watching the TV show, watch when the commercial comes on, how it's much more louder and probably clearer than the actual TV show plays.
I did not know that. Good to know. I don't have cable, but when next time I'm at my parents' house, I'll
Do you
check
not
to
have
see.
cable because you topped that bill down?
Absolutely.
There you go.
COVID happened. And
Hire
I said,
AnaG.
Thank you, sis. But yeah, that's the thing. Like back in the day, it was just your circle of influence that was right there in your face. And now with social media, we're trying to compare ourselves with so many other people. I actually had to stop following some people because I felt like, oh, they're putting out the latest makeup palette and I want to have it. Next thing I know, I have 4 or 5 palettes and I only use one. So actually, that's one way that I weaned myself and really started to cut back on spending was I have to stop following some of these people that, hey, that's their job and that's all good. But I was definitely feeding into it and I was spending too much on that. So how important is it when you're struggling with this financial stress or stress in general, how important is it to have support from family and friends?
It's important. It's important, but you have to also be mindful who are your family and friends, because everybody in your family don't need to be in your business. You need to know who can you share within family, within your friend circle, who are going to be supportive of you, not leave you feeling judged, I guess, and knowing that they can still uplift you, like, this is what you're going through and let me see how I can help you. On the same token, you want to be informative to the correct people, because you never know when family or friends have to kind of step in and possibly help you. So you don't want them to be blindsided. All of a sudden you're like, I need $85,000. You got it? No. So keeping the right family members in the loop is important for 2 reasons: for the support, but also, you know, God forbid you need some help and there is someone who can help you within your circle, your inner circle. They're not blindsided. Yeah.
And I just want to hit on that point that she said, not everybody needs to know your business, regardless of their family and friends. We all know who we can go to for what, and so informing the right people that are going to support you, that's big. When we're going through any type of stress, just having people that are really going to support you and really looking out for the best of you is so important. But there are some people that might not have that, you know, anybody around that's really there for them. What about them? What can they do?
Those people, there's support groups that center around finances and stress, but you seek out people like AnaG. You seek out people like myself. I totally believe in the power of psychotherapy, and again, people think it's just, oh, tell me what happened to you when you were 2. No, it's like, what happened to your check? Why did you buy? I have a client who in the middle of 3 a.m. she paid like $500 to some advertisement on TV for work. First of all, don't shop at 3 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's on there for anything good. So that was several of our sessions ended up being like, what's drawing you to doing that? Where's the support system that said, don't do it? I mean, at 3 in the morning, they're all sleeping, I hope. But if you don't have anyone, then you can hire someone. You can have someone for long-term or short-term, look at what you're doing, help you step by step. And that's exactly what you do, not through only your YouTube, but through your personal finance business. And I mean, I'm a believer, so I'm a new client of Miss AnaG's, and I'm already, you know, starting off bad, changing my appointment on Thursday, but I am in it.
That's okay. You just gotta take that step and you're doing that too.
And you have to just look, am I stressed? Yes and no, it depends, but sometimes you need someone with other eyes to look. Also with therapy, you need someone outside of your circle to look at what you're doing and help you come up with a plan. And so between the 2 of us, I think we have a good niche for those who don't have support and those who do have support.
And you know, on my end, when I deal with the personal finance, it's pretty much black and white, like numbers are numbers, right? But if you haven't figured out what is that underlying, like why you're making those decisions that you're not even conscious of, which is what you do on your end. It might be that's what you saw your parents doing, or I know clients that are like, they need to see the money in their checking account because they don't feel comfortable seeing it in their savings account. They're just so used to not having money that even moving it from one into the other, it could just be some of those things that you don't even realize that you're doing. That speaking to a psychologist like Dr. Lockhart, that they can help you understand that, and it'll help you get so much further along in your personal finances, because once you realize why you're doing what you're doing, now the steps that you need to make, they'll be easier to make, and you'll make them more consciously.
It's totally an emotional attachment. And even when we had our consultation, I was just like, what am I gonna do? You know, and I have my things, not that I don't have my ducks in order, but there's always room for improvement. And there's things that I was like, are you gonna touch my Amazon account? Amazon is the
Starbucks for some other piece of my other clients.
Exactly, like we all have our thing, and some things I need from Amazon, some things I don't need from Amazon. And so looking at those things and having someone sit and write it down for you decreases the financial stress, and it decreases your emotional distress from it, and will increase the good stress, the eustress. And look at how that's spelled, but look at how it's pronounced, eustress. And so that's so key, that we look at those things, we take a part of it. You know, doing things like not opening your bills, avoiding phone calls from creditors or whomever. All of those things add to those stress. So if you have a professional, if you have someone and that's their passion, that makes it even better. Wanting to help from a passionate point for me, it makes me feel more trustworthy. The person's more trustworthy and makes me want to invest more. Like, they can pinpoint and put these things down in a way that just decreases your stress. And while I had to change my appointment for work reasons, I'm like my stress level of looking at how I manage my stuff has already started decreasing, because I'm like, okay, and Anna and I have known each other for a long time. Our boys since like 4 years old.
And they're 17, around
16 and 17 now. Yes. Yeah, I stalked her to be my friend. And
Kelly's that like larger than life friend that you have. That's her. She's awesome.
But knowing, like, I've seen her manage, you know, not an intimate level, but I've just seen you manage like your money, and I just knew, like, when you started this new journey of yours, like, it was so perfect for what you wanted to do. And I knew eventually, like, I've already referred people to you, so it helps them to know that, like, whether I had used you yet or not, like, this is a person I trust to put your name out for. And so that's important. That helps decrease stress. That helps decrease emotional stress. Again, all tied to our finances.
Okay. And you know, so I was actually talking to my mom about how you were going to be on the show, and how I know other people that have therapists. And I was just like, is this a thing? And because I know a few friends that have it, and my mom mentioned, like, I think in the Hispanic community, just leading right into my next question, how do different races deal with stress? And even not just stress, but also that stigma between having a therapist. Like, do you think there's a difference there?
There's a difference. So in the Black and Brown communities, especially African American and Latinx communities, we don't tend to talk about our finances.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about them really within our families, unless, you know, someone's broke. You know, everybody got uncle, auntie who's always at your doorstep, your titi tío who's at your doorsteps, right? And so you talk about that one, even though you're like 2 steps short behind them. So we put up fronts. It's taboo. Same with seeking out therapy. We don't seek out therapy. It's getting better.
Okay.
It is getting better. Again, I believe in the power of therapy, and it's there because you need to step away from the same people you're clashing with or running with. Even in my own household, if there's a family problem and they're like, well, you're the doctor. I'm like, I'm the kid here. Like, I'm not Dr. Lockhart, not Dr. Kelly. I can't therapize, which is not a word, but it's my favorite. I can't therapize myself. So I have to step outside. I have my own therapist. This is how I stay sane with the work I do. Marie Green, she's great. Come to me first. And then
Dr. Lockhart.
But you have to, different cultures handle it different ways. And one of the things I did look up specifically for that, let me see on my little mini pages that I have, I thought this was kind of fascinating, is I found this one study that looked at the different ways that cultures broke down money. And looking at sort of tying race in America, it was interesting that when they said Americans, they were really referencing white Americans.
Okay.
And that was très annoying. And when they talked about, they specifically broke down, well, I'll just kind of look through my paper if that's okay. So they looked at the Philippines. The Philippines financial literacy rate is at 25%. And their philosophy is if you save something, you get something. So I won't go into like each thing so in detail, but adults would constantly remind their children to put cash in their alcancía, including coins left over from their school allowance, so cash gifts during Christmas. So they have more of a saving philosophy.
Okay.
In Pakistan, one of the 5 pillars of Islam is zakat, which is giving alms to the poor and the needy. But in order to do that, you also need to have your sound mind and means of your own finances. Their financial literacy rate is 26%. Here's the USA. So the USA has a financial literacy rate of 57%, and looks at one of the best ways to teach kids is how to save money responsible, giving them an allowance during chores. And I had to laugh when I was reading that part because, again, they said Americans, this is well known, a common strategy Americans use to prepare their children for adulthood. No chores, no allowance, no money. However, they're really speaking to white Americans because definitely in the African American community, I can generalize here, and the Latinx community, we don't get allowance for doing our work. Did you get allowance for doing your work?
No, you live here, so yeah.
Do your boys get? I mean,
no,
yeah,
they
right.
do not.
Like, and of course they ask for it. So, and they're asking for it when they're barely doing it. So that's a whole nother topic. But again, when we're in the state that we're in now, it's sad for me, and I won't digress too much, but they're saying Americans, and that's not us. And they clearly aren't looking at all the cultures. So no work, you're supposed to do it. Unless you want to help pay the mortgage, then you can have an allowance. They went to Mexico. Financial literacy is 32%. Over 77 million Mexicans don't have access to bank accounts. The cultural practices widely popular as 31% of Mexican populations practice tandas. And that's a way that they contribute savings pools, I guess, amongst the family.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
And then when somebody needs it, then they get it. Yes, I have heard of that.
They rotate it between groups. China, they said, is frugal living. Financial rate is 28%. They do their gross national savings rate is like 46%. They had an overall sort of better rate of saving money. Germany was connecting with cash, 66%. So you have all these different. Korea does a money envelope where the gift for at weddings, and I've been to some Chinese weddings too where they have the red envelopes, and it's all money in there. I kind of wish we would adopt that in our weddings. So different. They had India, they looked at Japan, they looked at Kenya. Let me make sure I get my African continent there. Yes, I am Black, just in case y'all are wondering. Kenya's fundraising. They do fundraising. They're group oriented, which makes sense. So all these different groups had different ways of looking at money, but it did show that white Americans had the most financial stress. Well, they had a different financial stress. That overall income base, they were better. It also showed that African Americans, even as we climb up the economic ladder, our stress doesn't really decrease because we have the racial impact of stress and all those things that come with it, not only in the streets, but also in the boardroom at the workforce. So our stress doesn't decrease. I thought one another factor that was interesting in that study was immigrant Latinos had less stress coming in than Latinos raised in America, who were also subject to a little bit more racism. But now current Latin immigrants are experiencing higher stress. And I'm pretty sure we can contribute that to Trump and Satan's minions' way of handling all of our immigrants coming in. So they said that if you're born and raised here, your stress doesn't go away. If you're coming in, you have a better chance, except for the new wave of immigrants.
Okay. And going back to just in the brown and black community, I understand what you're saying. We just don't talk about how much we make within each other. Our kids don't know how much we're making and how we're budgeting. And so yes, that gets passed on, and then when does that, when do we break that generational curse? Right. So just understanding that different races do deal with it differently, understanding where you're at within even your family, so that you can decide if this is something that you need to deal with. And I'll just say, just because you have a therapist, and I think this is one of the things that I had to realize, just because you have a therapist doesn't mean you have like all these problems. It's just being able to cope with day-to-day stuff, which I didn't know that's what it was. In my mind, you have a therapist, like you have
what happened to you when you were 2, Anna?
Yes. And that's not the case. Some people are like, hey, that's who I bounce my ideas off of and my thoughts. And like you said, they have that outside perspective that they can make an unbiased,
it's a support system. I mean, and some things therapeutic could be talking about the draft that just happened. That could be stress also. But so sometimes, and it also depends on who you're seeing. If I have a 16-year-old, they might not be open to just delving so deep. If a 16-year-old male, they just might not be talking. If you have an elderly person, they want to talk about culture and family a little bit more, and you have to sort of circumvent the issue and kind of dive into it. So it all depends. Again, with the financial stress, are you necessarily in session? Some sessions may be like, this is how much I'm in the hole, I don't know what to do. And then I can say, I know someone who you can reach out to, connect with them, talk with them, and then, maybe they're coming to you. So it's all circular, and people don't really realize how different things are connected. I was thinking about the 2 clients who, again, she's working like 3 jobs, but it's just not going in. She's like, what is that? The little
spinning her reels.
Yeah. So I gave her your name, and and then I will encourage them, because again, part of that, the mental part is getting stuck. So I give you this person's name, AnaG, and 2 sessions later, you still haven't called. Why not? What's going on? What's the fear? So I can then encourage and support. Let's talk about what's really happening. And then hopefully they'll get to making that call, to whomever needs to help them. And that's so important, because if you don't, I truly believe that most of many of our physical ailments is because we're not dealing with our emotional and mental health. And a lot of that, big numbers are with the finance.
Yes, okay. And you had mentioned a 16-year-old. So when we think about stress, we mostly think about adults, because we think of all the responsibility that we have. And if the bills don't get paid, we have to deal with, okay, well, how are we going to eat? And but how does stress impact children?
So I think the different ways that it impacts them is seeing how the parents interact with it and react to it. So you mentioned how we don't talk about it with our kids. And that's a topic. I mean, that's a taboo topic. Like, what do we divulge? What don't we divulge? What's your business? What's not your business? My son always wants to know how much money I make. And I'm like, I make enough so that we're not kicked out. Moving in here with Titi Anna.
You got some food in your belly.
You got food in your belly. Auntie Anna has room for us. You have the activities you want. There's food. It's not always top ramen. That's what your business is. I don't even know if I should talk to him about it. My parents was like, that's none of your business. And no, you can't have those shoes because we don't have any money. So it's like, well, what? It's not my business, but we don't have any money. Or what is it my son used to say when he would ask me something, and I felt like he knew when the payday was. And before he could get it out, or he'd ask the question and then finish filling it in with, we'll see about that. I couldn't even get it out anymore. store. Let me think about that. We'll see about it. I'm like, do I say that a lot? He's like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So he asks and answers. So I'm like, then what are you asking me for?
Yeah.
Back in the day, parents would just look at you and they're like, that's a no. Right? Or you're out in the supermarket, don't touch anything. You're in the store.
Don't ask for anything.
Don't ask for anything.
We're going in there to get one thing.
Exactly. No, you can't have that. Don't let me slap you in the store. So all of those things happen, and the kids do have to have some kind of conversation, especially now because of the RoRo. I call it the RoRo virus. So because of RoRo, they're seeing our stress in a different way. Usually they're going to school, we're at work, we're dealing with it at work, we're dealing with whatever, but we're all here together. And it is important to have, I think, multiple conversations. Conversations about how they need to make money, how they need to save money. I think generations upon generations do not have conversations about how to save money. I think now they're finally teaching financial literacy in school. I don't know what took so long. Even within my field, there's no business class in psychology. Many people want to start their private practice. Many great psychologists practices fail because you don't know how to manage the money. And everybody thinks it should be free. It's not, people. So ask that to your medical doctor. So your psychologist is not free either. But all of those things are things that we need to be talking to our children about. They can feel our energy. They can hear our little, if you have a partner, they can hear the conversations with the partner, either loud conversations or not so loud conversations. And so they feed off of it, and they can then get stressed. I don't want to tell mommy that my shoes have a hole in them because they just heard dad say
he got laid off.
Exactly.
And not
Yes.
even more to that.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But going back to what you said, I've developed this ever since I started to know more about finances. I've been a lot more open with my boys about when they ask me how much do you make? I do tell them now because I want them to be able to have at least an idea of this is how much you could be making, or this is how much is average, or maybe if it's above average or below average. I want them to get as exposed as I can, expose them to as much information about personal finance when they're at home, so they can be so much better educated when they're outside in the world. I don't want my kids to learn how much is it okay to be making? Am I good if I'm making $15 an hour compared to $25 an hour? I want them to know that kind of stuff.
So let me stop you. When you said you told your kids how much you made, my heart just started palpitating, and I got a little bit of angina and anxiety. Stress. I got financial stress because it's so taboo. Plus, again, I think why our parents and our parents didn't talk to us because they figured we're going to be running out in the street telling our business. So as a part of that conversation, don't be telling my business in the street.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
okay,
This conversation, I'm letting you know because I want you to know.
My chest hurts.
I want you to know. I want you to have a good idea of how much you could be making. At the same time, like you said, it's not anybody else's business how much I make unless I decide to tell them that. And even within myself, it's you know what? It's still taboo for me as well. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
But and I'm still dealing with it.
All right, I might. Dr. Lockhart is growing. Dr. Kelly's growing. I might have a conversation with my son.
Okay,
maybe a little bit more conversation than we've had in the past.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so I think we pretty much covered it. But if you wanted to add anything else so how do you deal with stress? I mean, we talked about hiring a professional, talking to family. What else is there that somebody could do, or you want to elaborate on any of those
Yes.
points?
Physically, there's things you can do. Exercise, being outside, weather's changing. Exercise in your home, exercise out of your home. I guess you can come to Anna's to see if your finances can afford a trainer or the gym. She'll let you know.
And a psychologist.
I'm not trying to get rid of my trainer. So we'll see when we meet next week. But it's important to find those ways. How you eat. You're stressing, but you're eating McDonald's filet of fish with hot fries, no cheese. You're having those things for your comfort food.
Yes.
And that's not good. So that's going to add to your weight. That's going to add to your heart conditions, right? Potential heart conditions. Those are some ways. Setting goals. I actually want to just kind of read off of this because I don't want to miss any of them. Setting goals, plan ahead. Whether you're planning for retirement in a few decades, vacations in a few months, setting goals can help you. Build an emergency fund. I think this probably is across the gamut, but definitely, and even in the studies that I was looking at, Black and brown, we don't think about emergency, because we're living day to day, a lot of us. But as a whole, Americans, white, Black, and otherwise, do not have the savings that they're supposed to have. I know that was one of my main things that when I had my consultation with you. Those are important, especially we all see it now with the pandemic and how many people are out of work, having to rely on unemployment. I mean, it set us into a major, major crisis. Shop carefully. Turn off your Amazon alerts. Keep track of bills and earnings. Look for help with AnaGFinanzas and myself, Dr. Lockhart. Identify what needs the most attention. Write them down, your 3 biggest money challenges. Try to stay positive. That's super important too. Staying positive, especially when you're in the trenches of dealing with your financial stress, when you're just starting with someone like Anna, stay positive, like there's light at the end of the tunnel. That's super important. And being realistic. If you make $15 an hour, you cannot get a Benz, not today. Can you save to get the Benz? If the Benz is your desire. You have to look at what's realistic, what's attainable, what's not attainable. And again, coming out of the row, what's attainable and what's not attainable, because that's put a big damper on many things that we wanted to do. Small steps are key. Make the most of your income. Keep yourself honest, which, I think that falls in that keeping up with the Joneses as well. Keeping yourself honest, like, yeah, you got that. And when your house is in foreclosure, possibly not wishing that on anyone, but they weren't keeping up with the Joneses that they were trying to follow too.
Yeah.
So those things are realistic. And getting rewarded for your spending. I can't wait to find out what I'll be able to reward myself with jumping on investment. This real quick, there's suggestions for taking care of yourself. I said eating well, reaching out to family, friends for support, getting enough sleep. That's super important, because when you're sleeping, your stress is going down, you're re-energizing, reviving yourself for the challenge of the next day. Relaxation techniques, yoga, mindfulness, walking, breathing, keeping a diary for some people. I'm not a good diary keeper, but for some people that helps. Keeping your sense of humor, for sure. And just remember, even with regards to children, like, there's no perfect parents. Kids don't want perfect parents. If there's a way, if you're working 20 jobs, your kids would really rather have you home to have that family time and have one less,
pair of shoes.
One less pair of shoes. I don't know if they'll give up one less video game to have us around, but those are things that if your parent or parents are out working all the time because of financial stresses, the kids would rather have you home.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so just kind of recapping, or if you are going through financial stress and taking time out to figure out how is it affecting you physically, emotionally, mentally, and taking control. That's one of the, like you said, all those other things that you can do, but doing things like setting a budget, hiring a professional, finding a professional also that will help you see what the underlying problems are, so that you can stop making the same mistakes over and over again. So if this is you're having some type of, whether it's financial stress, emotional stress, any type of stress that you have, just know that there are people out there, professionals out there that can help with that. And just take the steps that you need to start taking control of your life, start taking control of your finances. So I want to thank Dr. Lockhart for taking time out to be here today.
Don't forget the power of prayer too.
Yes, the power of prayer.
Pray over that money.
So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what would be, and find out about what services you offer, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Instagram, Facebook, how can they get a hold of you?
You can reach me at, I feel like a commercial, 609-225-4935. That's 609-225-4935. And my email address is drlockhartstherapeuticwellness@gmail.com.
And we will make sure to link all of that in the description box, or put everything down there so you can get all that information there if you weren't able to write it quick enough. So I guess that's everything, unless there's something else you want to add.
Dr. Lockhart's Therapeutic Wellness.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here today. And if you could raise your cup, I'm going to do it with this. I always end with cheering and to your finances.
Mocktail for me.